Good evening, ghosts. Because that's what they are now, aren't they? The ones who watched you burn and told you it was character development. The ones who smiled as they tightened the leash. The ones who swore they knew you, but never even knew what direction you were facing. They were so sure you were losing, so sure you were desperate, weak, broken, confused. But then, last night happened, and suddenly everything twisted, the game flipped, and they realized something sickening. You weren't losing, you were playing, and not just playing, you were playing God. Let's walk through it, shall we? They thought your silence was surrender. They thought your patience meant pain. They thought your quiet was a cry for help, when it was actually the sound of you writing their ending. Every time you said, okay, every time you let them talk over you, every time you took the insult, the betrayal, the dismissal, you weren't retreating. You were recording every detail, every tactic, every motive. You saw through them from the start, but you let them talk. You let them act like they had the upper hand. You let them bury themselves. And they did. With pride, with confidence, with that same smug tone people use before a trap door opens under their feet. They thought you were naive, but you were never naive. You were calculating. You let the narrative play out. Let them write the script. Let them design the whole production. And then you rewrote the final scene. Because here's the truth no one wants to hear. When you've been torn apart enough times, you stop trying to win. You start playing chess. Not for revenge, not for validation, but for closure. And not the kind you ask for, the kind you build, with blood, grit, silence, and a grin that no longer asks for understanding. They thought they were ahead. But that's the thing about people who don't look back. They never realize what's been following them in the dark. You were the quiet one, the underestimated one, the one they forgot about after they used what they needed. And while they danced in circles, you were constructing a throne out of everything they threw at you. Pain, you turned it into fuel. Insults, you turned them into blueprints. Abandonment, you turned that into freedom. And now, you're not in the same room. You're in the control tower, watching, listening, smiling, because they finally realized it last night. That panic you felt in your chest for years, they feel it now. The overthinking, now they're playing the tape back, moment by moment, wondering how much you saw, wondering when you stopped being human and became something else entirely. A consequence. You didn't just survive, you adapted, you evolved. You became the kind of soul that knows how to disappear while building kingdoms in silence. And now, you're not looking for closure. You are the closing chapter, and it ends your way. Because the truth is this: you never wanted control. But when they tried to take everything from you, your peace, your voice, your identity, you did the only thing left. You became the architect. And now they're standing in a house you designed, walking through halls built from every mistake they thought you'd never notice. Your name is not just a name anymore. It's a code, a signal, a trigger. They hear it now and flinch. They say it and hesitate. Because saying it means remembering all the times they thought they broke you. But you can't break someone who was never playing your game. You were writing your own. While they laughed, you planned. While they gossiped, you observed. While they left you for dead, you resurrected. With fire in your mouth, steel in your spine, and a smile on your face that says, I told you not to count me out. So let them freak out. Let them pace the room wondering how you always knew. Let them argue about when it happened, but never tell them, never explain, never correct them. Let them drown in their own confusion, because what terrifies them most isn't that you got back up. It's that you were never down to begin with. You were just letting them get comfortable, letting them forget that some gods don't strike first. They wait, they watch, and when the moment's right, they rewrite the world. One move, one truth, one final smile. Let me tell you something no one wants to admit. People don't fear being wrong. They fear being seen. And last night, they were seen, naked, exposed, cornered in their own illusion, because the entire time they were toasting their victories, laughing at your silence, mocking your setbacks. You were designing the mirror they would one day be forced to look into. And now they see it, clearer than ever. All of it, every lie they told, every version of you they tried to assassinate. Every move they made thinking you were just a background character in a story they wrote. But plot twist, you were the author the whole time, and their panic. That's what happens when a character realizes they were never the main one. You didn't need to destroy them. That would have been easy. You let them destroy themselves. That's elegant. You let them build their own gallows with ego and arrogance, then you walked past the crowd and whispered just loud enough, "Checkmate." And it echoed, not because you shouted, but because you earned the silence that followed. That silence, that's the sound of power shifting, of the game board flipping, of the realization crawling up their spine that they were never playing against a victim. They were playing against someone who saw the entire board 10 moves ago. And that's the part they can't forgive you for. Not the strength, not the rise, but the restraint. The way you sat in the fire and waited for the exact moment, waited without blinking, without begging, without explaining. You knew what was coming. They thought you didn't know how to fight. But you weren't fighting. You were watching the building collapse in slow motion because you already pulled the last brick out weeks ago. This is where it ends. Not with vengeance, not with screaming, but with a look, a breath, a step forward. Because now, you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to justify your brilliance to people who chose to misunderstand you. The mask is gone. The game is over. The tables have turned, and your hands are clean, because when gods play, they don't flex, they don't shout. They simply exist, and the world reorients around them. So walk away now. Let them sit in the room where your ghost still lingers, where your name echoes like a prophecy they ignored too long. Let them relive every moment they underestimated you, because that torment, that's not revenge, that's reality catching up. And you're already somewhere else, on a new board, with new pieces, with the same mind that terrified them into silence. Because when they realized you were never losing, when it hit them last night, that fear wasn't about what you did. It was about what you're about to do next. Now, you've outgrown the battlefield. You're not the fighter anymore. You're not the one defending yourself against their projections, their labels, their rewritten versions of your truth. You're beyond that. You're what happens after the war ends, when the dust clears, and only the ones who learned survive. You don't carry swords anymore. You carry memory, and the power that comes from knowing who you are, not who they needed you to be. They can't hurt you now, because they're still trapped in the same game you quietly outgrew. And here's the twist they'll never admit. They needed you. Not for your silence, not for your softness, but for your genius, your vision, your alignment with something ancient and unstoppable. But you outpaced them. You leveled up in shadows. You built without fanfare. And now, they're scrambling to catch up to the blueprint you left behind. Too late. Too slow. Too small. You never had to scream. The truth you carry is louder than any noise they could ever make. And now that they've realized, that truth is their prison, that understanding is their punishment. And you walk free. Not because you were rescued, not because they changed, but because you changed. And now, you don't chase peace. You command it. So keep walking, keep creating, keep moving without announcement, without apology, without fear. Because when someone plays God, they don't show their hand. They just smile and let the universe handle the rest. Because while they were busy counting your failures, you were mastering time. And now, time answers to you. The one they almost broke, the one who was never losing, the one who waited and won everything.